So the New Braunfels market took quite a hit this past month. And guys, if you're thinking, okay, what does that really mean for me? Guys, I want you to hang with me because ripple effect of the month like this, it can create some of the best opportunities we have seen in a while, especially for buyers. But guys, there are a lot of challenges you definitely want to be prepared for. And look, whether you're planning to buy or sell or just keep an eye on your home's value, this is a moment that you shouldn't ignore. So what I want to do today, I want to do a deeper dive than I normally do to really educate you what's going on and what's actually happening in the New Braunfels market and why these things are happening. And guys, stay with me because at the end, I'm going to show you one indicator that I really do like that's going to help out both buyers and sellers. All right, guys, so we're going to start off with the elephant in the room, which is the market statistics from October for New Braunfels. Guys, when you look at the median price year over year, it dropped by 4.1%, and the closed sales, they dropped by nearly 20% at 19.3%. There was only 121 homes that closed in New Braunfels proper last year, and that is not, last October, that is not a very good number. But on top of that, I mean, the active listings are up 18.9%, which you would expect it to be because the closed sales were down so far. But what that has brought us to is what I was talking about way back in May, or really about June, July, when I really started this ramping up, is that our month of inventory has jumped up to 6.4%, which, guys, we are firmly in a buyer's market right now. Now, a lot of sellers ask me, okay, we're in this such a great buyer's market, and there's so much listings on there, and there's why aren't buyers moving? Well, guys, there still is a housing affordability issue, which this is something I have been harping on over the past 3 weeks. So let's take a look at the numbers. I mean, this is kind of like the chart because I want everybody to understand the history of everything. As you see modest, but pretty stable price increases year over year. And this chart is based on the San Antonio, New Braunfels area. Now, within this chart, you're going to start seeing the jump right before COVID hit at the summer peak of 2019. It drops back down, but then COVID hits, and after everybody gets released from COVID and all that government funding that comes in, it really jumps up to where you see the price increase of that summer once people get released at $332,000. Excuse me, we hadn't got the stimmies yet by that time. But then you're going to see a modest little bit of drop. And then all of a sudden, when you had all the government stimmies that came about, that's when you saw so much cash flow into the system, which pushed up the home prices just on the median value at $379,000. Now you combine that with the average interest rates. I mean, they were down to about 3 to 4% at that time. I know like many of y'all got interest rates all the way down to 2.25. I talked to many of y'all on the table, but that really put a crunch. Now, where you really see the dive down is when they started raising the interest rates. But really that 2022, that was really the peak of the housing market of where we saw the heights rise. People were overbidding. It was really just a mess. It wasn't the ideal situation of what you wanted to see buyers do inside of this market. So now when you look up over the years of just kind of you see how the peaks and the valleys flow. Now we've dropped down to where we are at now at $329,000. Again, this is for the San Antonio, New Braunfels area. Now, guys, as we move forward, what is really going on? Why are we not seeing buyers really enter the market? Well, this chart really explains everything. So this is the average 30 years mortgage interest rate. And guys, when you look at this, you're going to see where the peaks and it ebbs down to the trough in the 2020 right there at COVID area. And then all of a sudden it skyrockets because the Fed has to, because housing prices were just getting outrageous. And plus, on top of that, there was no supply due to lack of building because of COVID, supply chain issues. Plus, everybody just throwing money around, just like, it's Oprah giving cars out as well. So we saw these interest rates, they really peaked to 7%, and then they kind of troughed a little bit back down. But then in 2023, they really peaked at about 7.75, nearly 8%. That really put a damper on the buying power, and that's really kind of where we saw and we are seeing the peaks really reverse down all the way down to where we're at today, which is still at roughly, I think we're at 6.3 when I checked everything this morning. So when you look at the interest rates and you combine all this down, guys, it's like what this does, it really soaks up the buying power. And the best example I can give you, like if you go back to 2021, a $330,000 home would get you $1,400 a month. That's principal and interest. That's based on about a 3% interest rate. Now, when you look at that today, based on a 6.3% interest rate, that same home, you're looking at $2,054 a month. Guys, that soaks up $654 a month just on the principal and interest, and we hadn't got into the taxes as well. But when you factor all that in, that's $7,848 a year just on the principal and interest. And guys, I bring the insurance in too as well, because when you look at insurance costs, I did the research this morning, it's increased since 2020 about 33%. So think about that. It's like when you look at the average cost for insurance, it's now over $3,000 a year when it used to be about roughly around about $2,000 a year. So you increase that, that's going to add on nearly $100 a month. So just in buying power alone, that's going to be $9,000 a year just in buying power, just on home affordability itself, not including everything else that is increased in price. So with that, when you add all this up, where this is really starting to go is we're looking at the median household income. Now, the median household income, it has increased quite a bit. But when you look at the household and everything else, still today, you're looking at $79,600. Now, many of y'all that spoke to me, y'all know I really do try to preach. I preach on the front end ratios. What I really focus on is realtor for a house. Most lenders are going to focus on the back end ratio, which is really what is your total debt to income to your house payment, to what you make. The reason why I focus on the front end is because I ideally want to see people putting money in their savings, but most importantly, don't become house poor. Because house poor is not the best position that you can be in. So when you look at that, I got little notes on my board, reading while you're kind of looking up. So ideally, at what you're looking at the household income today, you would want a house payment of $1,990 a month. And I think everybody knows with the interest rates where they're at, $1,990 a month, just principal and interest alone, that will cover about a $330,000 home, which I just kind of explained in there with you. But what that does not factor in is taxes. Now, the good news is like there's a little bit more tax relief coming on because of homestead exemption. I think January 1 is where this begins, where it's going to be $140,000 on the homestead exemption. So that's going to bring taxes down to at least a breathable level. But still, when you factor all that in, factor the taxes and the insurance in, it still creates a crunch for buyers to go out and to purchase a home. Because one other thing that we have not even factored in as well is going to be the maintenance of the home as on top of that. So moving along. So when you look at the market as a whole, you're going to see a huge jump in the number of listings hitting the market. Now, ideally, where you're going to see the troughs of these is really going to be December, but we typically do not see this sharp of the rise in the month of October. And sellers, here's why this is important, and buyers, here why this is important too, is when you're seeing a sharp rise of this such later in the year, because our typical prime months to list a home is going to be April, May, which June typically is going to be the peak of what you're going to see. Sometimes it's May, sometimes it's June, because people like to be settled into a house before school starts. So we continue to see these houses falling off the market. And really around December, January is where you're going to see that bottom trough. Now, you typically don't see an increase in the month of October, which, you'll still see, it's not abnormal to see an increase in activity for people purchasing a home because, again, there's a lot of people that are trying to get moved in before the new year starts as well. But when you see this sharp of an increase, what this tells me is that there's a lot of expired listings, a lot of listings getting taken off the market, getting withdrawn for whatever reason, and getting placed back on the market. On top of that, just like you have a lot of people that just didn't sell in the summer or didn't try to sell in the summer. They were just kind of waiting to see what the market is. But now maybe they're in position to go ahead and having to put their house on the market. And that's not even to say that when you look at foreclosures year over year is up 32%. That's not a good sign. And really what you're seeing behind that number is that people that purchased in 2022 and 2023 at a higher interest rate, they were looking at a hope to refinance later at a lower interest rate. But there's a problem with you when you try to refinance. I may just do a video over this later. I may bring a lender on, my preferred lender on, to talk about this in further numbers. But even when you try to refinance a house and it's showing that it's currently overvalued, there's no bank that's going to refinance that house at a lower rate. Unfortunately, I mean, I talked to a seller just last week. They purchased at 380 at the peak. Their mortgage right now is at 360. They were looking at potentially refinancing. Unfortunately, like when I run their CMA, and I had the lender run the CMA, we were both the same number. They ran at 320. So you need to be at least at a 95 loan to value. And I'll get a lender on, explain all that, but loan to value. But most lenders want you at an 80% less at a loan to value. And what that does, reason being, is because they want to take as least risk as they can. So that's why we're starting to see mortgage foreclosures starting to go into place. And we're starting to see the upkeep because people that were hoping that these interest rates were going to drop. And this is why I jump on so many real estate agents as well, for just like interest rates are dropping, buy. No, the strategy has to fit you. You have to be able to afford your payment. There's always risk involved, and you need to understand those risks. So don't get caught up in the noise that's out there. Look and plan of what strategy of what works best for you. Try not to get yourself in the house poor. But guys, also, I mean, I understand you just don't want to throw your money in rent away too. And I wholeheartedly agree, because that's money you're never going to get back, which, I mean, again, we're in a housing downturn right now, but guys, every downturn turns into recovery. So as we move forward on this, we're seeing a sharp increase on price drops. You're going to see this on the first slide. I mean, the average original price, listing price to sold price in New Braunfels, I think, is at 91%. Over a third of homes right now are seeing price cuts, and I dare to really say that number is very much higher. Now, most sellers, I mean, they don't like to do price cuts and everything else because they think of this and that. But I will tell you, there's a lot of bargaining power if you're able to come in and you find that home that's priced right, and to come in, ask for incentives, for more incentives, and probably maybe even some of the incentives that you want to look down to as a buyer is ask the seller to buy down your rate as a possible seller concession. Now, within that, I mean, again, when you look at FHA and different loan, you can only get so much of seller concessions towards that loan. It really depends on the loan. Again, that's one of the questions, because I think it's getting time to bring Jason back on the show to really answer some of these questions out. So moving forward, I mean, home sales, guys, I mean, this is no shocker. I mean, the home sales, they are down. Average month over month, I mean, we average about 3,000 homes sold a month. Again, this is San Antonio, New Braunfels. We're down quite a bit. I mean, we're down nearly like 20%. And that shows in the numbers. The good news is this year, we did get up to 3,300 when you're looking at some of the portion of the summers. But again, we're dropping back down. Where this number is going to fall, I don't know. But ideally, it's hopefully we can get back to an average in the San Antonio, New Braunfels area of 3,000 homes a month. But really, what really is going to control that part of the market is interest rates coming down and home prices coming down to where the interest rates, where they're really meeting up to create a scenario where your average household income is now able to afford to purchase that house. So that's why when you look at everything, as I say that way, because like when you look at the buy versus rent, there's no doubt about it. I mean, right now, it is so much cheaper to rent a house than it is to buy a house. But guys, if you're renting, remember, when you rent a house, that money does not go anywhere near that house. You're paying off someone else's mortgage. And I've had several rental homes in my lifetime, and one thing I loved about it is it didn't matter what the market did. As long as I had somebody in that house, somebody's paying that rent. And they don't get that money back. I get that money. It goes into paying my house that I'm renting out to them. And that's what we're seeing. When you're seeing the rental prices that far below of home ownership, that is not a good sign. Because that home ownership, in order for it to be a good balanced market, you want the rental prices to be higher than home ownership prices, because we want to entice people to purchase homes. And that's why when you look at the gap, if you watch one of my videos earlier this week, it was on a short. The average first-time home buyer is 40 years old. That is not good. So a lot of these people, they're going in, and I know what a lot of people are happening right now, because if people don't understand what their number is or what number that they're comfortable in right now, I even encourage them to go take a hiatus for a year, and let's get a plan that's in place that's going to work out for them. Again, they're never going to get that money back. They're going to donate anywhere from, really here in New Braunfels, anywhere from $20,000 to $26,000, depending on what their budget is on average. They're not going to see that, but they get to sit back and kind of plan what they're thinking and what they're looking at their house. And but most importantly, what is their true affordability number? And that's really what I'm working with a lot of first-time home buyers, and even a lot of downsizing and upsizing home buyers too, because at the end of the day, I do not want to see people house poor. Now, guys, with that, there is great news on the horizon. So one of the most important stories last week that got published, and I think a lot of people really, really missed out on this opportunity, is the Fed announced that they're going to start buying bonds. Now, a lot of people may ask me, okay, Cody, you said the Fed has nothing to do with interest rates. No, I said there is a correlation. It's just not like a direct correlation. It's indirect. And you see a lot of realtors, they'll play out the game is that the Fed just cut interest rates. Well, at that time when they're announcing that, guess what interest rates are doing? They're going back up. I don't really get into playing that game and everything else. I look forward thinking everything else. I don't get caught up in the hype as the rates are going to rise and fall as they do. But the reason why I like this story in the Fed is because it is showing the transition from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing. And guys, what that really means, layman terms, is they're putting more money back in the system. And when there's more money back in the system, that means there's more money that's going to be able to be borrowed, which that creating that type of supply, that could potentially be the creation of seeing interest rates actually starting to decrease. When this is going to happen, guys, I don't know. I don't have a fortune teller, but I do like this because this is great news for buyers and sellers when you look at it. Putting money into the system, the housing prices continue to fall, but also if we could correlate with everything with this, with the median household income, if it continues to rise, it will put both sellers and buyers in a good position. So what does that mean for everything? Guys, if you're selling a house, I cannot stress the importance of, one, getting the house priced right, having marketing that actually works, not just putting a sign in the front yard saying, hey, good luck. But sellers also, especially if you have a starter home, a starter home is like, look at your house. If there are repairs that need to be done, you need to get them done, bottom line. If you need to replace the carpet because you have so many stains, people puking, dogs puke, whatever it is, pee stains, all that stuff, replace the carpet. Don't give carpet allowances. Nobody cares about carpet allowances right now. What they want to be able to move into that home because their budget is already stretched. And by giving them an allowance is not really going to do anything for them. And look, sellers, if you want free consultations on those houses on what to do and potentially do to get your house ready for sale, shoot me a message, shoot me an email, go to my website, let me know. You can call me, I will answer. Buyers, stick to your plan. Have a plan. Know what that affordability rate is. And guys, if you can stay under that 28% debt to income ratio so you don't become house poor, then do it. Stick to it. But with that, look at taking advantage of the market while you can. We're in the buyer's market right now. And the buyer's market could get even better for you too as well. I would not be surprised if we get up to 8-9 months of inventory by the time we hit the market next summer. I'm not saying we are. I don't know. We've got to wait to the numbers because there's surprises that are out there. I mean, consumer sentiment, affordability, all those things play in the factor. But buyers, I mean, most of all, I mean, just have your strategy in place. And guys, I mean, you're going to find me on here too as well. You're about to see, I'm rolling out December 2nd. I'm going to be rolling out my first time home buyers. It's really what I call the Homebuyer Blueprint. It's really to sit down with buyers on a webinar to strategize, help them learn how to strategize their plan for purchasing a home and understand the steps of the home. Now, moving forward is I'm going to be producing a whole set of videos of home buyers classes and also for home seller classes. This is a long ways forward on that. But most of all, what I want you to do, I want you to focus on the moment today. Owning a home is great, but how you get there, that's just part of the journey of living. I love you guys. Share, like, subscribe to these videos. Pass these on to people that are going to be purchasing a home. And if you have any questions, reach out. I'll see you next time.